I'm Jeff Skversky here with the one and only Ron Jaworski to break down this Carson Wentz mega trade to the Indianapolis Colts for a third-round pick this year, a second-round pick next year that could possibly turn into a first-rounder. Ron, when we talked last week, you were pretty dead on with what the Eagles could get back in return, what you heard that they could get from the Colts. Do you like this trade?
Well, Jeff, 19 days after a deal was imminent, we finally have a deal. So we could put this to bed. I think for Carson Wentz, it's a very good deal. He gets, number one, what he wanted out of Philadelphia. Number two, he goes to the team he wanted to go to. Number three, be reunited with Frank Reich, his coach, who he played so well under here in Philadelphia. So I think when you look at maybe the overall picture, Carson got what he wanted. I think Howie did a really good job in the Eagles front office of salvaging this deal. It was a bad marriage. It was going south. And I think the opportunity now to potentially get a first-round draft choice was a win for Howie Roseman. But, Jeff, we really won't know for 2 years. I mean, we're going to see how this all plays out. Does Carson Wentz play 75% of the plays so the Eagles will get a first-round draft choice? Or does he fall short of that and play 70% of the plays? There's a lot of things that are involved with the end of this story. It will last a couple more years.
Are you surprised that Howie Roseman and the Eagles could not get more for Carson Wentz?
Well, the market really bears the fruit here, and there really wasn't a market for Carson Wentz. Howie Roseman tried to drum up interest. It just wasn't there. As we spoke weeks ago, what I had heard, there were really only two teams that were willing to make offers to the Philadelphia Eagles. Fortunately, one of those teams was the Indianapolis Colts, and they got the deal done. And I think, we're fortunate for that because at least the potential for a first-round draft choice is still there.
Is this a sad ending to the Carson Wentz era in Philadelphia over after just 5 years with so much promise?
Yeah, I think it's a very sad ending. Carson Wentz is an enormously talented player. I think somewhere down the road, Jeff, we'll kind of figure out what happened. But in this pandemic era where there's very few interactions with people except via Zoom and telephonic, sometimes when you can't talk to people, you can't get to the truth. I think eventually we will find out what happened with Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson, the Eagles front office. There are many very good reporters in our community that will dig deep and try to find out what happened. But it really is a very bizarre story that's going to be told. If you would ask me this 3 years ago, I would have said, "You're out of your mind, Jeff. You're crazy. We'll never be in this situation." Yet here we are, and at least now we have a finality to it. Almost. We got to wait a couple of years to see if it'll be a first-round pick or not. But I think at least now the Eagles can move on and start thinking about the NFL draft.
You just think about the last few months. I mean, Wentz is benched, Jalen Hurts is the starter, Doug Peterson fired, Nick Sirianni hired, Carson Wentz traded. I mean, it's just madness. The Eagles won the Super Bowl just a few years ago.
Yeah, that's a decade of news right there, and it happened within months. So it's very unfortunate. But as I said, I think Carson, is a good quarterback that had a bad year. I think the pandemic contributed to a lot of the dysfunction of the Eagles organization and many teams around the NFL. I am hopeful and confident that next season we'll have some normality in the preseason, in training camp, and the regular season. But that's still an unknown right now. We may be back in the same situation we've been in for almost a year. So no one really knows, but we do know this, that we will be pulling for the Indianapolis Colts to have success. And for Carson Wentz to play 75% of his plays, so the Eagles can recover a first-round draft choice.
Well, that's interesting. You want them and Carson to do well, but maybe not too well where it makes you look bad. I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword here because if he plays really, really well, it may look bad upon the Eagles. In the other event, they would get that first-round pick.
Yeah, I think you can either see the glass half full or half empty. But I want Carson to do well. I got to know Carson in town. He's a really good person. He's a talented player. I think things will work out for him. In Indianapolis, it's a loaded football team. that is a balanced offensive team as far as offense, defense, special teams. And, they're a run first team with a rock solid offensive line, 3 first-round draft choice. So, the stage is set for success for Carson Wentz in Indianapolis. And, the Eagles they did save some money on this. They got rid of a big contract. They're certainly eating a lot of dead money, which hurts the ability to sign present players and some free agents. But I think at least now the Eagles as an organization can move forward and start thinking about the future after Carson Wentz.
You obviously believe in Wentz's ability, and therefore you look at the market the way it played out. They didn't get necessarily a huge offer. So did the Eagles give up on Wentz just too easily here? Would you have held on to him?
What I would have done is probably different what the Eagles have done, but it seemed that it was so dysfunctional. They really had no choice. It appears that Carson Wentz clearly wanted out. Now we don't know. He hasn't said that, but by the actions of him and his agent team, it appears that he wanted out. Period. And the Eagles, did not want a disgruntled Carson Wentz here. They made the best deal possible, and as I said already, I think Howie Roseman, the Eagles front office, did a good job of salvaging a very difficult situation. So, I'm a Carson Wentz guy. I think he has a lot of talent, but maybe there's something I don't know which caused this marriage to break up.
So you wouldn't have made this trade?
I don't know. If I knew all the facts that the Eagles front office knows, it might be different. But on the surface, I'm a Carson Wentz guy. But the Eagles got something for him, and I think depends on if they can get in that number 1 draft position, how it'll help the football team. But I think the fact that we can now move ahead as a football city, as an Eagles group that wants to see them do well, at least we can start talking about football again rather than all the trade possibilities and all the off-season distractions that we've had to deal with.
You know how hard it is to get a franchise caliber quarterback in your organization. Some teams spend their entire existence trying to do so. Can this come back and haunt the Eagles here, where it appeared as if they got a franchise quarterback in 2016?
Yeah, Jeff, for 4 years, I thought we had a franchise quarterback. And after the 2017 season, I thought we had an all-pro quarterback for the next decade. I think we all felt that good about Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson, the supporting cast. And look where we are in 3 short years. Carson Wentz gone, Doug Peterson gone, and a lot of the supporting cast gone. So, the National Football League is a not-for-long league. And, Jerry Glanville, former head coach, said when he said NFL meant not for long, I think here's a real-life example of what he was talking about.
How much easier is this, in your opinion, on new head coach, a first-year head coach, and Nick Sirianni, to go on a training camp with one quarterback and not a quarterback controversy, and being able to go full throttle with Jalen Hurts?
Well, there's no non-quarterback controversy yet. we don't know what the draft will hold if the Eagles decide to go and draft.
We can't stomach that. We can't stomach another.
We might be back to square one again. Hey, who knows? The 6th pick. This is a very good quarterback draft, by the way, Jeff. I'm looking at 4 or 5 deep in the first round. It may not work out that way, but I think from what I have seen of this quarterback group, there is some real talent. So there could be a rush to get a quarterback. I'm not saying the Eagles will or they won't, but it's a good quarterback class. But right now you're going into training camp with a quarterback that has played 4 games, and certainly Jalen Hurts has shown the ability to make some great plays, be a strong leader. But personally, I think the sampling is too small to anoint him as, yes, the long-term solution to the Eagles quarterback woes at this point. Certainly it has shown, at least from what my understanding, talking to coaches that were on this staff, Hurts has a great work ethic. He just wants to learn. He just sucks up all the knowledge he can. He's willing to put the time in. He has shown great leadership skills. So, all the arrows are pointing up in regards to Jalen Hurts, but I still think the small sampling of in-game experience is too small.
But when you look at Jalen Hurts, when you look at Nick Sirianni, assuming they don't draft a quarterback and Jalen Hurts is the guy, for him to have a clear mind that he's the guy, for Sirianni to go, okay, we have a quarterback, it's not an issue here in training camp, how much that can help the Eagles building forward in 2021?
Well, I think if you solve the quarterback problem, and I'm saying it is kind of a problem right now. You don't have a proven quarterback. You have a lot of maybes out there right now. Um, but looking down the road, I think Hurts will be the guy. That would be my speculation at this point. Here in mid-February, only time will tell. They're going to have to bring in a veteran quarterback, and kind of an by the way, we all have certain philosophies of how teams should be built. I am a strong advocate for a young quarterback having a wily old veteran as a backup quarterback. Look at McCown a year ago. I when I see situations like that, that's how I personally I like it. I'm not saying I'm right or I'm wrong, but I think when you have a veteran quarterback that a young quarterback can learn from and develop that relationship where the veteran quarterback can teach the young guy, sometimes a coach can't teach him or even say to him. I think that's how you develop quarterbacks. That's my feeling. I'm not saying the Eagles go that way, but I'd like to see a veteran quarterback. If it's going to be Jalen Hurts, have a veteran behind him to really develop that rapport that's so important.
Well, had the Eagles had a veteran quarterback a year ago and they did not draft Jalen Hurts, maybe we would not be in this situation where Doug is gone, Carson is gone. I mean, that seemed to be a domino effect. I understand why they drafted Hurts, but doesn't that seem to be the domino effect here? Put everything back to that point.
Well, I think there is a theory that people have spoken about that when you draft a quarterback in the second round, he is the heir apparent. I lived that experience. At the end of my career, Randall Cunningham was drafted. But you see what Aaron Rodgers has done out in Green Bay when Jordan Love was drafted. Well, hell, it's about competition. You compete every single day for your job. I don't care who you are, what you are, how much money you make. You compete every single day for your job, and that's just that's the National Football League. The average career is 3.1 years. That's why guys don't last very long. If you lose your competitive edge, not willing to compete, you're going to lose your job. And you got to be a man about it. You got to have a strong backbone that when there's competition, hey, you compete. And when we've heard the theory that Carson was not happy when Hurts was drafted, but you just got, hey, that's the way, that's life. You got to move on. You got to compete.
Eagles now taking on a record near $34 million cap hit, largest cap hit in NFL history. What is the impact that it's going to have on this roster now going forward, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, we have just heard that the cap right now will be a minimum of 180 million. It may go up a little bit more depending when the final bookkeeping work is done at the league office up in New York. But it'll probably be somewhere in that area, which, by the way, is $20 million less than it was this past year. So that means less money to distribute to the players because they get a percentage of income. And obviously the income in this pandemic era is way down. So the cap will be at around 180 million. The Eagles are responsible for taking a big cap hit, so you're even down. And that impacts the depth on your roster. It's hard to sign free agents. It's hard to sign players, period, when you don't have the money to pay them. So and more importantly, reward players that deserve merit raises based on their performance. So I think the trickle down of not having money to spend is a real negative for the Eagles in rebuilding this football team.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you give me a grade on this overall picture for the Eagles on this trade of Carson Wentz?
A C for controversial.
And Carson. I love it. With Ron Jaworski, I'm Jeff Skversky. That's the latest on the Carson Wentz drama, the trade to the Indianapolis Colts.